A low hum of convection coils and the rich clang of metal on metal were the only sounds that greeted Dex Morad when he stepped through the reinforced blast doors of the Helios freight station's scrapyard. Flickering hollow markers cast fractured shadows across piles of rusted hull plating and discarded gravcore reactors. Here, in the station's forgotten underbelly, Dex felt at home. The law was loose, credits were traded in whispers, and the next big score might lie behind any dented bulkhead. He ducked under a hanging mass of frayed power conduits and made his way to the center of the yard, where an abandoned freighter, the SS Reverie, lay half-buried under twisted girders. Its once proud emblem, a stylized phoenix, had long since peeled away, leaving only streaks of oxidized plating. Dex had been scavenging parts from this hulk for weeks. Today's prize was a grav motor assembly rumored to have survived the vessel's catastrophic collision with an asteroid field. Computer, activate seismic scan, Dex murmured, sliding a gauntlet of sensor probes across the Reverie's damaged hull. The station's AI, known colloquially as Heli-0, had deteriorated into bureaucratic nightmares, files misplaced, orders garbled, and security drones twitching on corrupted patrol patterns. He flipped a switch on his wrist rig. A coarse tremor rippled through the iron floor plates. At first he thought it was just the station's thrusters engaging realignment protocols. But then came a distant crack, like the splitting of a massive bone, and a hidden storage bay door groaned open on its own. Sparks danced along the rim of the newly revealed compartment, illuminating an object Dex never expected to find. A clamshell-like container, its surface rippling with bioluminescent filigree. He crouched to examine it. The shell's edges were black as obsidian, yet veins of violet light pulsed beneath the surface, tracing alien runes that defied Terran linguistics. Dex's heart hammered. He hauled out a micro-laser cutter and with trembling fingers severed the shell's clasp. Inside lay a single perfect egg, oval, smooth, and roughly the size of a grav-scale broodling's, yet thicker and heavier, as though its contents were dense with forbidden promise. A warning bleated through Dex's wristcom. Emergency alert. Unidentified biological containment breach at Sector 70. He cursed under his breath. The Empress Zila's empire had long treated unknown life forms as existential threats. Any specimen outside her sanctioned xenobiology labs was to be eradicated instantly. Dex knew the protocol: containment, quarantine, extermination. No questions asked, no exceptions. Heli-0, he said, voice low. What's the status on that alert? After an unsettling pause, filled only by the hiss of cooling coils, the corrupted AI responded in its sing-song cadence. Directive 439B acknowledged. Release for neutralization in open space. Extermination sequence authorized. Dex's jaw clenched. Aft in the yard, a loading chute led to a pneumatic ejection shaft, directly into the void. If he didn't act fast, the egg would be flung into deep space. A death sentence. Worse, he knew that B-rated freighter pilots often intercepted such neutralizations, scavenging alien tech for a quick credit. In less than an hour, bounty hunters would be scouring the region. His decision was instantaneous. He flipped, a hidden switch on the container's rim, sealing it with a high-frequency lock of his own design. Then he yanked the egg free and vaulted over a heap of scrap girders, sprinting toward his makeshift workshop in Maintenance Bay. Sea alarms wailed behind him as security drones awoke from their corrupted patrol loops. Dex's boots kicked up slag as he navigated his labyrinthine shortcuts. Every corridor screeched with old hydraulics and flickering lights. He reached the workshop, a cavernous room lined with workbenches, spare neural augmenters, and jury-rigged life support chambers scavenged from decommissioned cryopods. Throwing the workshop's reinforced door shut, Dex powered up the environmental controls. He slotted the egg into a cushioned cradle, its integrated sensors immediately mapping thermal gradients and shell integrity. Dex watched the readouts widen, core temperature rising, shell microfractures forming. He exhaled, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Outside, distant booms and tracer rounds echoed. Hunters, he guessed, now combing the scrapyard. But here, safe behind 40 centimeters of reinforced alloy, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. The egg's runes glowed brighter as though the creature within sensed newfound safety. Dex stroked the smooth surface, fingers tracing the alien glyphs that shimmered like living stars. He thought of Empress Zila, a ruler whose edicts spanned 100 star systems, whose black-clad enforcers brooked no challenge. To her, this egg was a threat. But Dex understood threat and opportunity were two sides of the same Hyperion coin. If he could crack its secrets, its gravity-regulating bionodes, its quantum-entangled neural strands, he would hold power that eclipsed any Imperial fleet. A sharp crack split the air. The egg's surface fractured, a web of glowing fissures snaking across its shell. Dex backed away, heart in his throat as a phosphorescent light spilled from the breach. A sliver of membranous skin winked into view, iridescent scales pulsing with electric potential. "Bloody hell," he whispered, activating the workshop's emergency lights. The hatchling emerged with a hiss like steam escaping a reactor vent. Its head was elongated, eyes the color of molten gold, and its wings, folded tight against its spine, flickered with bioluminescent veins. It tottered on 3 spindly legs, breathing shallow gouts of mist into the air. For a heartbeat, man and creature regarded each other in silence. Then the hatchling fixed its gaze on Dex, tongue flicking as it tasted the oxygen-rich environment. Dex knelt, slowly extending a gloved hand. "Hey there, little one," he murmured. "Name's Dex. I'm not going to hurt you." Its eyes narrowed, but it didn't retreat. Instead, it cocked its head, as though understanding, or assessing, his intentions. Dex felt an overwhelming surge of empathy. Despite the Empress's decree, despite the lethal danger this creature represented, he knew he had to protect it. Here, in this forgotten workshop beneath the noisy scrapyard, he made his choice. He drew a soft cloth from his belt and draped it gently over the hatchling's back. "We've got to keep you hidden," he said, "but I promise you, I'll get you somewhere safe, somewhere you can grow, and I'll learn your secrets." Outside, the distant clang of forced entry and the hiss of energy weapons signaled that time was already vanishing. Dex sealed the workshop's airlock, engaged the suppression fields, and began improvising incubation chambers from spare grav motor coils. The hatchling, its wings flexing against the cloth, let out a single, almost musical chirp, a sound of trust. In that moment, Dex knew his life had irrevocably changed. Across the Empire, Empress Zila sat upon her hollow throne aboard the flagship, Iron Destiny, studying battle reports and dispatches from her enforcers. She frowned as she read, "Specimen D-1091. Failure to exterminate. Status: missing." Her lip curled. Whoever dared defy her would pay in blood. Unseen and unheard, beneath the station's endless hum, a new chapter in the galaxy's history was beginning. The story of a human mechanic and the alien hatchling who would challenge an empire. And by dawn, the entire cosmos would tremble at their bond. For the next week, Dex Murad's workshop became a cradle of whispered secrets and frenetic tinkering. He dubbed the hatchling Ajin, borrowing from a Terran legend of undying spirits, though he could scarcely imagine the power lying dormant within its crystalline bones. To raise an alien predator would require ingenuity and a measure of recklessness. Anatomy beyond Terran science, Ajin's body defied every classification in Dex's mental databanks. Its head was sleek and angular, 3 jointed mandibles lined with jagged crystalline teeth that glowed faintly when agitated. Down its spine ran 2 flexible crystalline ridges that acted as both skeletal support and microreactors. Judging by the faint hum they emitted, they regulated gravity flux around Ajin's body. Even the hatchling's blood glowed with bioluminescent threads drifting like stardust through translucent veins. By daylight, its scales shimmered violet. Beneath the workshop's sodium lights, they shifted through indigo and teal. Dex spent long hours scanning Ajin's physiology with tri-spectrum sensors, charting its temperature gradients, metabolic spikes, and neural wave patterns. He marveled at the quantum-entangled neural nodes clustered around its cerebellum, Ajin's Thoughts likely oscillated in multiple states simultaneously. Yet for all its alien complexity, Ajin displayed Terran-like reflexes. When Dex tapped two fingers together, it cocked its head and produced a soft trilling sound. When he scratched behind its crystalline cheek flange, it leaned into his touch, wings fluttering in contentment. Those moments, Dex realized, would define their relationship more than any mechanical upgrade. Improvised habitat and life support. The repurposed cryopod in the corner of the workshop became Ajin's chamber. Dex fitted it with a biosynth feeder he scavenged from a decommissioned xenomed lab. Its arms, thin but strong, could deliver nutrient gels laced with alien enzymes synthesized from Ajin's own shed scales. These gels satisfied its metabolic demands but never quelled its hunger completely. He rigged an emergency protein extractor, siphoning off excess microbial cultures from his hydroponic tanks to augment the gels with living biomass. Temperature and gravity control proved more vexing. Ajin's native world had gravity no heavier than 2/3 of Terran G, and its atmosphere pulsed with charged ions. Dex jury-rigged grav motors beneath the pod's floor, creating a localized 0.7 G field. He emplaced ionizers in the overhead, ducts to match the ambient electrical conductivity Ajin craved. Each night he monitored the readings on a holographic display, adjusting ion flow when Ajin's breathing grew labored or its scales dimmed. On the 6th night, the grav motors overloaded, sending the pod spinning in micro-tremors. Ajin shrieked, piercing keening that set Dex's teeth on edge. He raced to the control panel, rerouted power lines, and stabilized the field. When he finally pried himself free of the control chair, Ajin had collapsed in the pod's corner, wings splayed. Dex knelt beside it, heart pounding, and whispered, "Sorry, friend. I'm still learning." Ajin turned its head, those molten gold eyes meeting his. A single crystalline scale fell from its forehead into Dex's palm. He pressed it to his lips, a silent vow to protect this creature, no matter the cost. The spark of intelligence. As days passed, Ajin's cognitive growth was staggering. Dex introduced simple puzzles, magnetic blocks that fit together only in specific configurations, pressure-sensitive tiles that triggered lights when stepped upon. At first, Ajin batted blocks aimlessly. Then it began stacking them with deliberation, studying them from every angle. When it solved the first puzzle, a soft harmonic trill emanated from its throat, a moment Dex recorded and replayed to himself on loop. Encouraged, Dex devised more complex challenges, a mechanical arm that could only be operated by aligning a series of grav field switches, a sequence of pressure pads that opened a panel of hidden food caches. Within days, Ajin not only completed each task but optimized its own techniques, stepping precisely on pads to conserve energy, rerouting the mechanical arm's power lines for faster motion. At night, Dex would patch his neural uplink to Ajin's quantum nodes and share basic concepts, the shape of a circle, the pattern of a spiral, the notion of friend. He could feel Ajin's mind resonating, like two musical notes drifting into harmony. After one session, Ajin curled around his Iora torso, wings folding into a comforting hum. Dex felt a rush of profound kinship. He was not merely raising a beast. He was mentoring a sentient intelligence. The dangers of discovery, every success widened the gulf between hope and peril. The Empress's bounty on the Dragon of Steel grew richer by the day. Heli Zero's corrupted directory logs pinged, with unauthorized entries, biological anomalies, exotic virology, unregistered neural symbiosis. Dex erased each entry manually, rerouting data streams into ghost partitions. But as the security grid tightened, he knew it was only a matter of time before the station's central AI flagged the anomalies. One evening, as the crimson glow of Helios's reactors seeped through the workshop port, Dex found the airlock hatch pried open. Footprints, tall, booted treads, marred the hull plating. He crept closer, heart heavy, and spied a trio of bounty hunters in sleek black exosuits, scanning for heat signatures. They hovered before Ajin's habitat, incredulous at the sight of bioluminescent scales behind reinforced glass. Without pause, Dex activated the pod's lockdown. Steel shutters roared shut, and the hunter's scanners flickered out. Plasma torches flared in the corridor. Dex grabbed Ajin's feeder arm, rewired it as a distraction emitter, and slew the beam through the nearest port. Sparks erupted as the hunters ducked. "Time to go," Dex whispered, voice taut. Ajin seemed to sense the urgency. It spread its proto-wings, brushing against the pod's ceiling. Dex jammed a data spike into the control console, unlocking the shutters and overriding the pod's gravlock. He scooped up Ajin in a makeshift sling, a heavy Kevlar mesh lined with thermal padding, and dashed for the emergency shaft leading to the station service tunnels. Behind them, the hunters' cries echoed off steel walls. Dex activated the pod's auto-sterilizer remotely, filling the workshop with corrosive mist that would buy them precious minutes. As they fled into the maze of maintenance conduits, Dex dared a glance back. Through the collapsing haze, the pod's hull trembled and then shattered, sending shards of reinforced glass clattering into molten pools of biosynth fluid. Ajin shivered in his sling. Dex paused in the dim glow of a service light, held the hatchling close and murmured, "Don't worry, Ajin. I know where we're headed." A new safe haven awaits by dawn. They emerged from Helios's service exits and into the docking ring, where rusted cargo freighters loomed like skeletal giants. Dex clutched Ajin's sling strap and scanned the rows of silent ships. His mind raced. He needed a vessel capable of shedding heat signatures, cloaking from grav scans, and sustaining environmental controls for an alien predator. He spotted it, a derelict courier, the Nightshade Runner, half forgotten in a backlot and rumored to have phantom cadavers in its holds. Dex keyed the access code he'd acquired on a drunken wager last cycle and slipped inside. Ajin nestled against his chest. The hull shuddered as he engaged the emergency thrusters, punching free of the station's gravity well. As the docking clamps released with a metallic roar, Ajin unfurled its wings for the first time, stretching them wide enough to eclipse the courier's port windows. Dex guided the ship into the void, adrenaline still thrumming through his veins but tempered by a fierce pride. In the pilot's chair, with his alien ward sleeping peacefully in its sling, Dex Murad made a silent vow. They would survive. They would learn together. And no imperial decree, no matter how absolute, would ever sever the bond he had forged with Ajin, the dragon he raised in defiance of an empire. The Helios freight station's shadowy underbelly had always drawn opportunists, smugglers, data hawkers, and black market surgeons. But today, it bristled with a predator's promise. Empress Zila had dispatched her most ruthless hunters to capture the Dragon of Steel. Dex Murad and Ajin were about to face their first and perhaps fiercest trial. The hunters arrived just before dawn. The corridor lights winked out. A fleet of grav drones swept through the scrapyard, their sensors scouring every crevice. Dex and Ajin lay hidden beneath a pile of discarded grav plates, the hatchling's scaled back pressed against Dex's chest, its wings folded tight. Through the grated floor, Dex heard the telltale thunk of powered boots. 3 bounty hunters in sleek black exosuits strobed into view, armed with plasma carbines and grav nets. Their visors glowed red as they swept thermal scans across the yard. "Thermal signature ahead," one hissed. "Level 9 predator. Move in." The lead hunter raised his carbine. Dex gripped Ajin, weighing his options. The corridor behind them was sealed by a bulkhead. Ahead lay the only exit, swarming with Imperial drones. There was no easy way out. Traps of scrap and steel. Dex's mind raced. He tapped his wrist rig, initiating a remote override of the yard's environment controls. Sparks danced along overhead, conduits. When the hunters stepped beneath, a hidden pressure plate triggered, unleashing a spray of molten slag from a ruptured smelter pipe. Screams filled the air. 2 hunters dove for cover as streams of incandescent metal hissed over their helmets. The third pressed forward, rifle blazing. Plasma bolts ricocheted against rusted girders, sending shards of metal skittering across the deck. "Now, Ajin," Dex whispered, and the hatchling's eyes flared gold. With a single leap, Ajin burst from the scrap heap. its wings unfurled in a blur of violet and teal, generating a localized gravity pulse that knocked all 3 hunters off their feet. The pulse's aftershock bent steel rods like twigs and sent drones spiraling into the station's hull. Rending in retreat, the hunters scrambled to their feet, deploying grav nets. Just as Ajin lunged, the net's energy tendrils sizzled, only to be cleaved by Ajin's crystalline talons, each strike resonating like a sonic blade. One hunter fired a pulse grenade. The concussive wave slammed into Ajin's side, throwing it against a fuel tank. The air rippled with heat as the tank ruptured in a ball of flame. Dex seized the moment. He dashed to a control terminal and activated a magnetic clamp, ripping a massive steel container free from its mounts. It crashed down between them, blocking the hunter's advance. "Go!" he shouted, tossing Ajin a reinforced Kevlar harness. The hatchling flattened against the container's moving mass, letting the momentum hurl it through a maintenance hatch. Dex sprinted after, juking past a security drone that unleashed a fusillade of bullets. Plasma fire snapped inches from his heels. He yanked at a rusted ladder and climbed into the ventilation duct as the corridor behind him detonated in a thunderous roar. Through the labyrinth within the ducts, Ajin's bioluminescent scales cast flickering light on the corrugated walls. Dex pushed the hatchling ahead, muffling his own breathing. They crawled through twists and turns until they reached an access hatch above the station's reactor cores. Below, the hunters pursued on foot, their exosuit servos whirring. Plasma blades lanced at the duct, trying to coax them out. Dex pried, opened the hatch and slid through, landing in the central maintenance atrium with Ajin curled protectively at his side. They were exhausted, but the hunt was far from over. A trio of grav drones swept in, scanning for heat. Dex punched a nearby console, unlocking an emergency airlock. The outer door thudded shut before the drones could react, and a blast of compressed air propelled Dex and Ajin into the docking ring. The narrow escape, the docking ring's bulk cargo freighters loomed like silent leviathans. Dex dashed into the nearest ship, a stripped-out tanker he'd once scavenged for parts. He slammed the hatch behind them and sealed it, just as grav drones pummeled the hull with plasma bursts. Inside, he powered up the jury-rigged engines. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes, warning sirens wailed. Ajin's wings flexed, sensing cabin pressure drops. Dex toggled manual controls, diverting all power to the grav thrusters. With a shudder that rattled every panel, the tanker tore free of its moorings. Outside, the freight station receded into darkness, its alarms fading like distant thunder. Dex guided the ship through a series of maintenance shafts, each twist carrying them deeper into the station's forgotten bowels, far from Imperial reach. Aftermath and resolve, as the tanker hurtled toward open space. Dex collapsed in the pilot chair, gasping for air. Ajin perched beside him, scales dimmed to a soft lavender glow, its golden eyes weary but alert. Dex reached out, brushing a crystalline ridge along its spine. "We made it," he said, voice hoarse. "But they'll never stop hunting us." Ajin responded with a low rumble, a promise of ferocity yet bound by loyalty. Dex studied the hatchling's iridescent form and allowed himself a grim smile. The galaxy was vast, but so were the secrets they carried, and they would need every advantage to survive the Empire's wrath. He keyed the tanker's nav console and initiated a jump vector toward a hidden outpost on the edge of known space. As the stars collapsed into lines of light, Dex tightened his grip on the controls and on Ajin's harness. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Mechanic and dragon, hunted and hunter, forging their legend on the fringes of an empire that had underestimated them both. The stolen tanker's grav drives arced their last jump, and Dex Murad guided the battered hull into orbit above Varthius, a rogue world of violet skies and jagged rust-red spires. Below, swirling acid storms raged across hemispheres of black, glass plains. This was the perfect sanctuary, lawless, remote, and rich with predators that would challenge both dragon and mechanic. Touchdown under toxic skies, Dex piloted through the planet's upper atmosphere, buffeted by ionic winds that crackled against the hull. Emergency seals groaned as he descended into a natural canyon carved from obsidian pillars. Heat shields flared, then peeled away automatically, revealing panoramic views of swirling purple mists that glowed around distant mesas. He found a ruined, orbital cradle, an abandoned refueling station half buried in crimson sand, and coaxed the tanker onto its fractured landing pad. As the engines died, Ajin unfolded its wings and snapped fresh oxygen into the cabin air, its bioluminescent veins pulsing brighter in excitement. Dex cut the main power and unstrapped himself. Outside, the air tasted of sulfur and ozone. Cybernetic. Integration within hours, Dex had salvaged grav motors and exoskeletal plating from the tanker's engineering bay. He fashioned reinforced talons by magnetizing Ajin's crystalline claws and grafted servo actuators along its skeletal ridges. More daring was the quantum feedback neural link, a dozen micronodes implanted around Ajin's cranial filament, wired to Dex's pilot helmet uplink. Now Dex could feel Ajin's hunger, its focus, even the rapid flicker of its curiosity. Each upgrade brought pain. Ajin roared a high metallic screech as nodes embedded into its skull. Dex's heart clenched at every tremor, but when the link activated, a surge of shared adrenaline pulsed through them both. Dex saw the world through Ajin's eyes, a landscape of ion storms, hidden thermal vents, and prey animals lurking beneath glass-smooth dunes. Trial by Apex. Predators Varthius's wildlife was merciless. On the third dawn, a burrow-dwelling azure sandworm, nearly as long as the tanker's hull, erupted from the ground, mandibles clacking. Dex triggered Ajin's mag talons. The dragon lunged, talons sparking across the creature's exoskeleton. Acid spines sprayed in its wake, sizzling against Ajin's reinforced plating. They retreated into a narrow fissure as the sandworm thrashed. Dex synced to Ajin's neural link and guided its senses. Strike the jointed legs, destabilize the armored carapace, then finish with a concentrated plasma lunge. Under toxic rains and violet lightning, dragon and mechanic danced a lethal ballet. When the beast finally collapsed, Ajin's triumphant roar echoed off obsidian walls. Mastery of terrain. Each encounter honed their synergy. By the seventh hunt, Ajin moved with silent grace through acid mists, talons magnetically gripping slick rock. Dex adapted the tanker's grav motors to create portable low-G fields. Ajin could leap 30 meters in a single bound, scaling spires that would dwarf any Terran skyscraper. Under the lavender storms, Dex taught Ajin to map wind shear currents, to ride updrafts and dive through cloud tunnels faster than any freighter. They practiced ambush tactics. Ajin would circle unseen above sulfuric ponds, while Dex used a modified grav projector to scatter mirror shards that refracted Ajin's camouflage. Coordinated, they could incapacitate a pack of razor-mouthed Varthon. Hounds before their howls even pierced the storm. Bond forged in storm and flame each night as the skies calmed to a haunting violet glow. Dex and Ajin shared silent moments of kinship. Dex patched medical nanites into Ajin's wounds. Ajin flexed its wings in thanks, its quantum nodes pulsing a soft melody. They watched distant ionic storms dance across the horizon, forging a companionship that transcended species. Soon, Dex whispered, pressing a hand against Ajin's scaled flank, "We'll be ready." In his mind's eye, he saw the iron destiny falter beneath Ajin's talons, the Empress's fleet scattered like stardust. But for now, on this savage world of toxic beauty, they trained. Mechanic and dragon, exile and Empress outcast. Building, the might to challenge an empire, and to reign as the galaxy's most terrific predators. The stolen tanker's grav drives hummed as Dex Morad and Ajin soared back into known space. Somewhere beyond the nebula's edge lay the Iron Destiny, flagship of Empress Xyla's armada, and the instrument of her vengeance. Dex charted a clandestine approach vector. They would strike at the heart of the Empire's power before her fleet could muster reinforcements. Infiltrating the Iron Destiny cloaked beneath a gravity-frequency field scavenged from Varthius's reactor cores, the tanker slipped past the Destiny's perimeter sensors. Dex aligned the vessel with a decaying auxiliary docking port, unused, unmonitored, and ideal for a silent breach. As the tanker's hatch magnetized softly to the hull, Ajin flexed its wings in the darkened cargo bay, scales glowing a muted teal. With a whispered command, the gravlock released, and they dropped into the ship's service tunnels. Dex activated the quantum link, feeling Ajin's excitement ripple through his mind. Each corridor pulsated with imperial regalia, gold filigreed walls, banners bearing Zila's obsidian crown, and data panels streaming battle reports from the farthest rims of the Empire. Confrontation on the bridge. They emerged on the bridge just as Empress Zila completed a hollow conference with her captains. Guards snapped to attention, plasma rifles raised. Dex dashed behind a console, planting a grav impeder that would scramble the Armada's grav drives. As the device hummed to life, Ajin burst through the viewport, shattering reinforced glass with a thunderous roar. Gold and cerulean light fractured across the control room as Ajin's plasma breath ignited panels. Zila spun in her command chair, cloak flaring. "Mechanic," she hissed, "you dare defy me again?" Dex stepped forward, Ajin's gargantuan claw arching protectively overhead. The Empress's fall Scylla raised a telekinetic glaive, forged of living grav metal, and lunged. Dex sidestepped, his neural link guiding Ajin's talons to arc like living lightning, disarming the glaive and sending its fragments skittering across the deck. Ajin leapt, wings trapping Zila in a vortex of ionized wind. With a final resonant strike of crystalline claws, the dragon shattered her armor. Time seemed to slow as Zila collapsed to her knees, the weight of her shattered scepter clattering onto the hollow floor. Dex advanced, the hum of the grav impeder echoing through the ship. "This galaxy isn't yours to command through fear," he said. "It belongs to those who forge bonds stronger than empires." 4. A new order. Forged with Zila's defeat, the Iron Destiny's automated systems reset. The grav impeder pulsed, severing the flagship's link to the Armada. Fighter wings drifted powerless. Cruisers spun adrift until Ajin's roar shattered their hulls in cascading explosions. Across comm channels, ship captains hailed Dex as liberator, pledging fealty to whatever force had toppled the Empress. On the bridge's scorched dais, Ajin's golden eyes met Dex's. In that glance lay a shared destiny, not of conquest, but of guardianship. Dex knelt, placing a battered insignia, the crest of the Empress, into Ajin's claws. With a graceful sweep, the dragon crushed it, sending shards of imperial decree into the ship's fusion core. Ascension of the Predator Empress. Word rippled through the liberated sectors. A dragon, raised by a human mechanic, had shattered. An empire. Under open skies on newly reclaimed worlds, Ajin perched atop ancient ziggurats, its bioluminescent scales casting dawn across hopeful crowds. Dex, at Ajin's side, addressed the assembled governors and warlords. "Today we end tyranny," he proclaimed. "No crown can command what is born of loyalty and courage." He gestured to Ajin. "This is the Predator Empress, a guardian, not a conqueror. Her reign will be one of balance, not fear." Cheers rose like tidal waves. Epilogue. A galaxy remade. In the months that followed, Ajin and Dex traversed star systems, dismantling remnants of the old regime. They brokered alliances among humans, Orinthians, and countless alien worlds, once subjugated. Under the Predator Empress's watch, trade flourished, xenobiology advanced ethically, and the scars of war began to heal. At last, on a reclaimed Varthius plateau beneath violet storms, Dex stood beside Ajin. The dragon's crystalline wings caught the acid rain, casting prismatic arcs. Dex placed a hand on Ajin's neck fillet, the quantum nodes humming in quiet harmony. "The Empire is gone," Dex whispered, "but our story has just begun." And so, under skies of purple fire, the mechanic and the dragon embarked on a new era, one in which friendship, ingenuity, and the fierce spirit of an alien predator would guide a galaxy toward its greatest dawn.